Importance of suspending judgment. Suspending. Suspending. Suspend. 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 To stop something from being active, either temporarily or permanently. The importance of suspending judgment. Suspending judgment. Thus, you see how the three arts of grammar, logic, and rhetoric cooperate. Rhetoric, grammar, logic, and rhetoric cooperate in regulating the elaborate process of writing and reading. Thus, you see how the three arts of grammar, three how the three arts of grammar, logic, three arts of grammar, logic, and rhetoric cooperate in regulating the elaborate art of writing and reading. Skill in the first two stages of analytical reading comes from the mastery of grammar and logic. Skill in the first two stages of analytical reading comes from the mastery of grammar and logic. The skill in the third stage depends on the remaining art. The skill in the third stage depends on the remaining art. The rule of this stage of reading rests on the principles of rhetoric conceived in the broadest sense. The rules of this stage of reading rest on the remaining art. The rules of this stage of reading rest on the rules of this stage of reading. Rules of this stage of reading rest on the principles of rhetoric conceived on the rests on the rhetoric conceived on the broadest sense. We will consider them as a code of etiquette to make the reader not only polite but also effective in talking back. We will consider them as a code of etiquette. We'll consider them as a code of etiquette to make our reader not only polite but also effective in talking back. Although it is not generally recognized, etiquette always serves these two purposes, not just the former. It doesn't just help in being polite, but also effective in talking back. So, although it is not generally recognized, etiquette always serves these two purposes, not just the former. You probably also see what the ninth rule of reading is going to be. You probably also going to see what the ninth rule of reading is gonna be. It has been intimated several times already. You probably want to see what the ninth rule of reading is going to be. It has been intimated several times already. Do not begin to talk back until you have listened. Do not begin to talk back until you have listened carefully and are sure you understand. Do not begin to talk back until you have listened carefully and are sure you understand. Not until you are honestly satisfied that you have accomplished the first two stages of reading should you feel free to express yourself. Not until you're honestly satisfied that you have accomplished the first two stages of reading should you feel free to express yourself. Not until honestly satisfied that you have honestly satisfied that you have accomplished the first two stages of reading should you feel free to express yourself. When you not only have earned the right to turn critic, you also have the duty, duty. Duty. Also, you have a duty to do so. Duty to do so. This means, in effect, that the third stage of analytical reading must always follow the other two in time. This means, in effect, the third stage of analytical reading must follow. I think the must always is redundant here because it must always follow the other two in time. The first two stages interpenetrate each other. The first two stages interpenetrate each other. Even the beginning reader can combine them somewhat. An expert combines them almost completely. An expert combines them almost completely. Even the beginner can combine them somewhat. An expert combines them almost completely. He can discover, I think discover. He can discover. Discover. He can discover. Discover. He can discover the contents of a book by breaking down the whole into its parts, and at the same time constructing the whole out of its elements of thought and knowledge, its terms, propositions, and arguments. Furthermore, even for the beginner, a certain amount of the work required at those two stages can be performed during a good inspectional reading. But the expert, no less than the beginner, must wait until he understands before he starts to criticize. Let us restate this ninth rule of reading in the following form. Rule number 9. You must be able to say with reasonable certainty, I understand, before you can say any one of the following things. I agree, I agree, agree, I agree, 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 agree. Before you agree or disagree. Disagree. Agree. Do we agree? Do we agree? No, do we agree? We agreed. Agreed. No, agreed. Disagree. Disagreed. Disagree. 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 Before you say agree or disagree, or I suspend judgment. So you must be able to say with reasonable certainty. You must be able to say with reasonable certainty, I understand, before you can say any one of the following things. I agree or disagree, or I suspend judgment.